Imagine a project so ambitious it could reshape the landscape of American technology and potentially the world. We're talking about Project Stargate, a $500 billion endeavor, spearheaded by industry giants like SoftBank, OpenAI, Oracle, and MGX, to build the infrastructure for the next generation of artificial intelligence. But Stargate isn't just about building one massive data center. The plan calls for multiple sites. For this video, we're going to assume 20 strategically located across the United States. Each of these data centers presents a unique challenge, a staggering 1.25 gigawatts of continuous power demand. Since not many details of the project have been released, we want to make this video as a discussion about what it takes to build and power such a project. We made many assumptions just so we can have a starting point to discuss with you. Some of these will be wrong, but it will provide a good starting point for our conversation. But what's driving this unprecedented project? It's about laying the foundation for what some believe is the next stage in AI evolution: artificial general intelligence and artificial superintelligence. We're talking about AI that can potentially revolutionize fields like healthcare, scientific discovery, and even address some of humanity's most pressing challenges. This is the vision driving the key players behind Stargate, and it's what makes the project's energy demands so extraordinary. In this video, we're going to explore the challenges of building and powering just one of these data centers, 1/20th of the estimated capacity of 25 gigawatts. We'll explore the possible energy sources, the construction strategies, and the sheer scale of what it takes to power the future of AI. This is all speculative, based on the limited information available, so we want to hear your thoughts too. About our 25 gigawatt capacity estimate, it's a guess and it could be way off. As a comparison, Mark Zuckerberg has announced a $65 billion 2 gigawatt data center. At the same per gigawatt price as that project, Stargate would only be 15 gigawatts. Anyways, this video is just to start a conversation. We'll stick with the 25 gigawatt. With that out of the way, so what do you think? How do you power a 1.25 gigawatt data center? Let us know in the comments below. To grasp the enormity of 1.25 gigawatts, let's put it into perspective. We're talking about the equivalent of the average power consumption of a state like Delaware or Rhode Island. Now, a typical large data center today might consume somewhere between 50 and 100 megawatts. Some of the biggest ones can even reach up to 300 megawatts. But Stargate's data centers, we're talking about 1.25 gigawatts each. That's more than 4 times the size of today's largest data centers. And remember, this is for just 1/20th of the planned capacity for Project Stargate. And these data centers aren't like your typical office building that powers down at night. They need a constant, reliable, 24/7 power supply to train and run the complex AI models that are at the heart of Project Stargate. So how do you fuel a project of this magnitude? And do it within a 4-year timeline? Well, there's no easy answer. It's likely Stargate will need a mix of energy sources, at least initially. Let's explore some potential scenarios, starting with what could be done in the short term. In the first 1 to 3 years, the quickest way to get power to these data centers might be to tap into existing grids. But remember, we're talking about 1.25 gigawatts per data center. That's a massive draw. Also, we have heard President Trump speak at the World Economic Forum, and he told the crowd he has issued an energy emergency. And he is telling investors they can build their own power plants on site with fast-track regulation approvals. So it's likely Stargate will build their own power plant on site. They could build new gas combined cycle or NGCC plants. But how do you build a power plant quickly? Well, one option is a gas combined cycle plant. These plants are relatively quick to construct, and the technology is mature and well understood. We're talking about a timeline of 1 to 3 years to get these operational, assuming the necessary permits are in place. But there's a catch. They rely on gas, so they will need to be near existing gas supplies and infrastructure. Plus, even if they build these plants, connecting to the grid at this scale could require significant infrastructure upgrades. but that may not be necessary. President Trump has also mentioned that coal would be a good backup power option for these projects, as America has lots of coal and it's reliable. Now, let's look at a potential long-term solution. That's where nuclear energy, specifically small modular reactors or SMRs, come into play. Now, these aren't your grandfather's nuclear reactors. We're talking about smaller, factory-built reactors that could, in theory, be deployed faster and perhaps more safely than traditional large-scale nuclear plants. And here's where it gets really interesting. Sam Altman, the CEO of OpenAI, a key player in Stargate, has personally invested in a company called Oklo, which is developing SMRs. Now, there's no confirmation that Oklo will power any of the Stargate data centers, but it's a strong indication of the growing interest in nuclear, especially for energy-intensive industries like AI. And while it's pure speculation whether Oklo will specifically power Stargate, the fact that they've signed a deal to provide a whopping 12 gigawatts to Switch's data centers is a major statement. This is the largest ever corporate power deal for a nuclear company. It signals a growing recognition that SMRs could be a game changer. Oklo is aiming to have its first commercial reactor online by late 2027, but that's an ambitious goal. Realistically, we might be looking at 3 to 7 years or even longer before SMRs are powering data centers at this scale. Would the public be comfortable with nuclear reactors, even small ones, powering their AI? Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Renewables like solar are unlikely to be the primary source of power for a 1.25 gigawatt data center that needs constant power. However, incorporating some solar power could supplement the data center's power usage, but realistically, solar isn't going to keep the lights on 24/7. Even with large-scale solar farms, we'd likely be looking at a time frame of 5 years or more to make a significant contribution. We think it would be unlikely for Stargate to consider solar. We've explored how Stargate might get its power, but that's only half the battle. The other half, actually building the massive data centers. And doing it on an incredibly tight schedule. How do we even begin to construct a 1.25 gigawatt data center, let alone 20 of them, in just 4 years? Let's keep in mind, a data center of this size would typically take 2 to 3 years to build under normal circumstances. Today, we've seen pictures posted by Sam Altman, and it looks like they have several buildings built already. So they have a running start. But let's consider with our case of building one data center from scratch. One key strategy is modular construction. Think fabricated, standardized components that can be assembled quickly and efficiently. This approach can significantly accelerate the construction process, potentially shaving months off the timeline. Another likely approach is a phased rollout. Instead of waiting to complete the entire 1.25 gigawatt capacity, they could build it out in smaller increments, say in 5 250 megawatt blocks. This allows them to bring some computing power online sooner, while continuing to expand. With this approach, they might be able to get the first phase operational within 18 to 24 months. But completing the full 1.25 gigawatts could still take time. And of course, site selection is critical. They'll need locations with access to existing power grids or the potential and permits for new generation plants, ample water for cooling, suitable land, and ideally a favorable regulatory environment. We might see these data centers popping up in areas with existing energy infrastructure, or perhaps in more remote locations where new power plants can be built alongside them. Just think about the computing power we're talking about here. A single Stargate data center could potentially house hundreds of thousands of the most advanced AI chips. To put that in perspective, that's more computing power than was available in the entire world just a few decades ago, all concentrated in one location. Another factor to consider is data center density. Stargate will likely aim for high density, packing as much computing power as possible in each facility. This can improve overall energy efficiency, but it also concentrates the heat generated, making cooling even more critical. And that brings us to the heat problem. These data centers will generate enormous amounts of heat. We're talking about temperatures that could fry the very equipment they're meant to cool. So a significant portion of the energy consumed will go towards sophisticated cooling systems. This project is also a strategic move in a global race for AI dominance. With countries like China investing heavily in their own AI infrastructure, Stargate is in part an effort to ensure the United States maintains its leadership in this critical technology. The stakes are high, not just economically, but also in terms of national security. Now, the partnership behind Stargate is also interesting. You have SoftBank providing the financial muscle. Then there's OpenAI, the AI research powerhouse, as the operational lead. Interestingly, Oracle, under Larry Ellison's guidance, is also a major player, signaling a potential shift in OpenAI's reliance on Microsoft Azure. Now, let's be clear, this is a highly ambitious project, and there are some major assumptions and challenges that need to be considered. First, we're assuming that Project Stargate will leverage emergency declarations. The project was announced by President Trump. As discussed, the President has declared an energy emergency. It will allow Project Stargate to bypass certain regulatory processes, potentially fast-tracking permits for power plants and transmission lines. This is a powerful tool and will significantly speed up development. Second, we're assuming a mix of energy sources will be necessary, at least in the initial stages. This means navigating the challenges of integrating different power sources and managing their varying levels of reliability and cost. Third, we're assuming that technological advancements, particularly in SMRs, small modular nuclear reactors, will proceed as projected. Any delays in development or regulatory approvals could impact the project's timeline. Beyond these assumptions, there are numerous other hurdles. We're talking about potential regulatory delays, even with emergency declarations. The sheer scale of integrating these data centers into the existing power grid is a monumental challenge. We don't think that'll be necessary though, as they will likely build dedicated power on site. And let's not forget the enormous water requirements for cooling these facilities. Where will all the water come from, especially in areas already facing water scarcity? Plus, there's the potential impact on local communities, from increasing energy demand to the visual impact of large data centers and power plants. And of course, there are technological risks inherent in relying on relatively new technologies, especially when it comes to nuclear. What are your biggest concerns about this project? Share them in the comments. Let's bring this back to the sheer scale of energy we're talking about. We said one Stargate data center would require 1.25 gigawatts of power. To put that into perspective, that's roughly the equivalent of the average power consumption of the entire state of Delaware or Rhode Island. Now, consider the entire Project Stargate, with its 20 data centers. That's 25 gigawatts of power. That's like powering the states of Florida and New York combined. And perhaps the most staggering comparison of all, 25 gigawatts represents approximately 5% of the total electricity consumption of the entire United States. So, there you have it, a glimpse into the immense energy and construction challenges facing Project Stargate. It's important to remember that this is a speculative exploration based on the limited information available publicly. The actual plans and strategies may and will differ. But one thing is certain, Project Stargate is pushing the boundaries of what's possible in AI infrastructure. While the project promises unprecedented advancements, it also raises critical questions about energy consumption, technological dependence, and the societal impact of such a powerful AI. Project Stargate is more than just an engineering marvel. It's a testament to human ambition and our relentless pursuit of technological advancement. The innovations it could unlock, particularly in fields like healthcare and scientific research, are immense. While there are valid concerns about the potential downsides of such powerful AI, such as job displacement, the ethical use of AI, and the potential for an AI arms race, the possibilities are undeniable. Lastly, we have to note that success of the full $500 billion project is not a given. Rumors are that SoftBank has put in $100 to $200 billion. It's not clear where the rest of the $300 to $400 billion will come from. Now, we want to hear from you. What do you think is the most realistic way to power a 1.25 gigawatt data center? Which energy source do you believe is the best option, and why? And what are the biggest challenges that this project will face? And what kind of impact do you think Project Stargate will have? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Want to unlock the power of AI? Our free newsletter gives you the tips, trends, AI news, and tools you need to succeed. Sign up with the link in the description below. Your journey doesn't stop here. Watch our next video right here and keep building your knowledge.